Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a place to discuss pain, passion, and pursuits.
Let's get it. I want to feel alive.
Breathe.
Make some moves.
Protect the throne. This is Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. It's your host, Helen Edwards, and
January Liddell. Aloha.
Awesome. Today, we are going to be talking about discipline versus motivation. But before we jump in, we just want to say thank you for listening and choosing us today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, or please give us a 5-star review on Spotify and leave us a review on iTunes, and also leave your Instagram handle, and we will be sure to share your tag in our story. So let us begin. January.
So I'm so excited we're talking about this because I feel that motivation and discipline go hand in hand. It's really important, especially, for us entrepreneurs. And so I guess this topic is for entrepreneurs, is for those who are trying to lose weight, those who are, running a marathon or training for a race or something. This topic is for you. So that's why I wanted to talk about motivation and discipline and which one is better. So one of the things that I got, hold on, let me see if I can get that quote. The quote is, hold on, I'm going to have to take out my light real quick. Here's the quote. Something motivates you to make a change, and in the early stages, you are motivated to take on that task. At some point, the motivation fades, and you then have to tap into discipline to keep it going. Discipline helps push through the times when motivation is low, so you can keep practicing. So that's just one quote. And I believe that quote is true. And the reason why I think it's true is because motivation can get you to like maybe the first couple weeks and you're like, yes, I got this. But discipline is really something that keeps you going even when the motivation has stopped. What do you think, Helen?
Yeah, actually, I read this. I read up on it a bit, and it said the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is about the why behind your actions. In contrast, discipline is about what you do. Think of motivation as your initial burst of inspiration, and discipline as the thing that keeps you moving towards your goal long after the novelty has faded.
Yeah, I'm reading this book called The Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I love that book. I'm on chapter 16. So what I love about that book is that he talks about making habits kind of just something that you do normally, so it's you're not even thinking about it. And when I think about motivation and discipline, that's what I think about. I think about, like, I know for you and I, Helen, we make our bed every single day. Like, that is just something that we do, and it's just normal. It's nothing, like, it's not hard work. It's not, something that I have to, I don't know, like, strive for, but it's like just something I do, like brushing my teeth. That's just something I do, and I think with motivation and discipline, the motivation is, like what you said earlier, it's just that boost of energy, which is good. It's needed in order for us to have that discipline. But I feel the discipline will take us far more than what motivation can do.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the game changers in my life was when I decided to change my perspective and habit along with my communication to myself, the way I talked about motivation and discipline. In fact, I used to say back in the day that I was not a believer of integrity. I did not believe in discipline. I didn't really care for motivation, just because I've always had energy. So I just thought it comes natural. But when the energy started to fade because of my, as you grow and as you age, things start changing with your hormones and energy can get affected by it. I started realizing that I need all of those things in my life. I need the motivation. I need discipline. I need integrity. And at the time I was single for a long time. So I decided to change, like I said, change my communication. And I decided to tell myself, I'm now in a relationship with commitment and trust. I'm now in a relationship with discipline. And just by changing that alone, I realized where my strengths and weaknesses were in regards to trusting myself, in regards to um, being disciplined. Because, like they say, if you want something great out there, you want this great person, you've got to really, you attract what you are. And that's when I started realizing, I mean, yes, we're all great people, but at that time, I wasn't the greatest person. I wasn't the ideal of what great was in my mind. I wasn't aligned with that. And that's when I really got aware of how I should start changing things, especially the commit or the relationship with discipline. My relationship with discipline was so bad at first. And when you're in a relationship with something, you tend to want to work, or you're supposed to tend to want to work on that relationship and make it better. And that was my reasoning for wanting to get in a relationship with discipline. And it helped a lot.
Yeah, I think I like how you said relationship with discipline. That's an awesome phrase because it is a relationship. It's, kind of like what I was talking about earlier is that there are like little rituals that you and I do, Helen. I know like every morning we have something that we do, and that's we're like forming our discipline. And I think with the motivation, right? So for example, my motivation is to drink more water, right? The motivation to drink water is because I need to make sure my body is healthy and all that. So that's my motivation, is to make sure my body is healthy. But I was using just a regular cup to like track my water. And I said, this is not working. And so in order for me to change that from motivation to discipline, now I have this nice huge bottle that tracks my water, and it's nice because it has like a time, right? So you can see the time of when I should be drinking it. So this to me is like my motivation is to be healthy. The discipline of drinking it is that's the action of it, right? So I feel like motivation is the action portion. I'm sorry, the mind portion, right? The motivation, and it's like your mindset. Okay, so that motivation needs to be there. It's kind of a foundation of creating the discipline. And the discipline is, okay, well, what are the actions that we're going to take in order to fulfill our motivation? Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. You were talking about earlier how we are in this habit of making our bed, right? And I went through a long period of my life where I would lay in bed and just not feel like it. I was in my feelings. I was in my emotions. I was swimming in my dark emotions of, I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I'm weak. I tell myself all these emotions that I was having, like I'm depressed. I mean, I would wake up like that a lot, all the time, and get up and I'd be like, yeah, fuck my bed. I don't need to make my bed. Fuck my dishes. I don't need to do the dishes. I would just start telling myself and feeding myself all of these feeling words because I was basically describing the way I felt. And discipline, when I did get in the relationship with discipline, I realized, just like a child, right? You're going to discipline your child and teach them the right ways versus the wrong ways, despite how they feel. Because if you just let kids just do what they want, they're going to make all sorts of incorrectness, and you're disciplining them to teach them that despite their feelings, despite what they really want to do, there's a right way and there's a wrong way of doing things. And those right way and wrong way of doing things are there. Those rules are in place to protect them. So going back to me in the bed, it's not so much protection, but it's more about me being an adult and taking care of myself. And of course, there is a sense of protection later on in that. And that protection, like I've talked about a lot, is protecting the mind, body, and spirit, and making sure that those depression demons don't come in and overtake my life, as they can with so many of us.
It's so easy. It's so easy, Helen, for those demons to lurk back in there and to whisper sweet nothings to our ear. And we can get stuck in our feelings, you know. And there's things too, like our health, right? And Helen, you and I were just talking about this. Like our health can also kind of take a step back, right? In terms of following through with our discipline. But things such as making our bed, I'm going to go back to that. The reason why that's so important to me, there was I think it was an admiral that had a speech about making your own bed. And it's not so much making your own bed, right? But it's a matter of, if you can't take care of the little things, such as making your own bed, then how are you going to take care of the big things? And that to me has always been kind of like the key thing, is that this is the little thing. Like, I want to be sure that I'm taking care of all these little things, because I know that big things are ahead of me. So if I know and I feel that big things are ahead of me, well, let me do this simple gesture as making my own bed. So that's why that's important.
I was going to say it also represents a symbolism, or it's like a symbolism of your commitment to responsibility, your commitment to yourself, your commitment to discipline, your commitment to beginning your day with some control in your life, you know?
I was gonna like give you some snaps, because yes, commitment is the word. Because if we allow our demons to sit there and make room in our head and like start paying rent and all that, then we would just be stuck in there. We would be like, I feel like we'd be Netflixing and chilling every single time. And I'm going to tell you, Helen, this is what I've been noticing like the past couple of years after like lockdown, is that people don't want to work. I don't know if you are seeing that over there in Wyoming, but I notice it here in Hawaii, is that people are like, I don't want to work, you know? And so there's a lot of people that are calling in sick. There's a lot of people calling in sick. And to me, it's like they lack the motivation. What do you
I
think?
was just going to say that. Like, I don't like to work, okay? I'm going to be honest. I don't like working. And especially don't like working for other people. But what I do like is having my why motivate me. Like your why, everybody talks about your why. Your gurus talk about it, Tony Robbins talks about it, Dave Ramsey talks about it, Danny talks about it. We talk about it. Everybody talks about whys, because those really are kind of like what I had read earlier. The motivation is backed by your why. And I like to also think of it like a fire under my ass. It's important to have that fire under your ass, especially if you're somebody who's lazy or don't like to work or just unmotivated or tired, or you have it all. Sometimes when you're content and complacent, and I'm going to be honest, I'm very complacent sometimes, because I have everything I ever wanted, and I'm really young, and I gotta dig deep, because I know that even though I have everything I want right now, it can all be taken away in a flash. And I also know that there is more that I can do in this world. There's more that I can give in this world. So technically, I don't have it all. And that's when I gotta really lay it out. Like, okay, what can I do to become better? How can I help more people? What else can I become to thrive and help others thrive around me? Because there's more to do in this world. And now that starts bringing in floods of answers of motivation and your whys and different, it brings people's face to mind. Like, I could help this person. I could be there for that person, and then you start realizing you don't have it all. There's more to do. It's exciting. The rush of motivation comes in, it's exciting, right?
I feel it. I feel the excitement, because yes, I don't want to work too, Helen. There's moments where I'm like, just flow right in. And mind you, I do have everything. I have everything I want. I have everything I need. I really don't need more. However, I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking, Helen? I'm thinking of the name of our podcast, Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. Let me just say that word freedom and the word sexy. That just kind of put two and two together. It's like, oh, music to my ears, sexy freedom. And the whole working, although it's like, don't want to work. I just want to play. I really do. I just want to play. Girl, when we're on the cruise, we're going to play a lot. It's going to be so much fun. So I'm really excited about that cruise time. But the whole working and the motivation for working, yes, you do need to dig deep into your why. And that why is going to sustain you. As long as you keep on thinking about that why. And then the why will nudge your motivation. I mean, your discipline, because you realize like, okay, I really do need to make those calls. I really do need to talk to that person. I really do need to reach out. I really do need to put some hours in. I really, so then hence the discipline comes in.
What motivates you right now, January?
So like I mentioned earlier, what motivates me is freedom. Freedom motivates me. The freedom to do whatever I want to do, the freedom to eat whatever I want to eat, the freedom to go wherever I want to go and when I want to go. The freedom to, my hugest blessing is my family. So my family, my children, my husband, being able to be there for them is a motivation for me. And so that's my motivation. They are my motivation. They're my whys of why I do the things I do and why I strive for what I strive for. And so then the discipline comes in and I'm like, okay, get your butt in gear. Let's go. We got this. So that's what keeps me going. So yes, but I have days, Helen, where it's like, I just want to relax. And I don't have many of those days, but when I do, I'm like, I can relax for a moment. So I have meditation. So I do my mental breaks and I love my mental breaks. So just a tip. Okay. So whenever the motivation is not there and you're feeling like, I don't want to work, because a lot of us have that feeling, then you gotta like take a pause. I know I've said this before, but really take a pause and reflect on, well, why were you doing this to begin with? And why is this important? Even for like people who work, right? Like just a regular 9-to-5 job. Why is it important that you work? There's reasons for why you work. You got to pay your bills. You got to have fun money. You got to put food on the table. There's all these different things that you need to work. Now, if you don't like where you work, that's a whole different story. Okay. So if you don't like the way, like what you're doing and where you're at, then that's a moment for you to reflect and see, well, what can I do? Because there's endless possibilities out there. Okay. There's endless possibilities. And I think a lot of us put ourselves in a box, in a cube where it's like, well, this is all I'm used to. And Helen, you mentioned complacency earlier. When we're complacent about the things that we're at, and you're deep down inside, you're not happy, and it's lacking that motivation for you to like continue on what you're doing, then you need to shift. Okay. So I'm going to call out my husband. I hope he doesn't mind. But I'm going to call out my husband. My husband has been doing what he's doing for over 20 years now. And he is just done. He's done with it. And I understand, because that's 20 years of doing exactly the same thing, over and over again. I apologize. I'm getting these notifications. But he's going to change it. So that's what I love about my husband, is that yes, he's still going to do something, but he's going to shift and follow what I'm doing. So I'm excited that he's going to shift towards this direction. And then that way we could actually work from home together. So I'm really excited, because he made that decision on his own, that he really didn't like. I think he's getting tired of doing the same things over and over again. And with the past jobs that he's been in, the company has lost the contracts or whatever, and he's had to apply like 3 times for different companies. And he's like, I don't want to do this. So he shifted. So I'm proud of my husband. So great job, Sam, for shifting gears.
That is amazing. I love that you said freedom, because I think that's what all of us want. In fact, that's how I began Sexy Freedom in the first place, is because I wanted freedom. I remember when I was working my ass off, 3 jobs, still struggling, just still struggling with 3 jobs, because I didn't know how to handle money. And my motivation at the time was to never work for anybody else again. I never thought that would happen because I just kept falling and falling and falling on my face, but I'd keep getting back up. And look at me now, look at me now. I've not worked for anybody for a very long time, but I will be working with Extreme One Financial soon. And I think that it's nice to have a break, because then when you have a break from not working with anybody, you start to appreciate when you do start working with other people and you start working with other teams. And that's where I'm at in my life right now. And for me, it's transformation. Transformation is my motivation right now, especially with my body at 42. And then having my hysterectomy last summer, that completely changed my body up. I've always been physically fit. I've always been, pretty thin and lean. And now I'm the heaviest I've ever been. But I've embraced it. I've loved on myself. There's no shame in my game. Like, my body has been through so much, and I thank my body every day for carrying me through so many years of, I mean, it's weathered the storm, If you look at your body, you're like, "Oh my God, you have weathered the storm and you still look good." Like, I'm thankful. But there is transformation that can happen. And right now I'm doing Booty King's workout, and it's hard. It's harder now than it ever was before to work out. But I have trained myself mentally to get up despite how I feel. I may sleep in, I may be tired, I may feel weak, but my mind doesn't go towards depression anymore. It used to in the past. I used to be like, "Oh, I feel depressed." And I'd be like, "What are you depressed about? Like, look at your life is amazing." I'm very, I have a lot of masculine energy. I'm very, tough on myself. I believe in tough love. Now, we all don't go that route. That's just the route I took because that's the route I was raised in. And there's a lot of people out there that were raised like that, but they don't believe in that anymore. To each their own. But for me, what works for me is that tough love. And I demand a lot out of myself because I've been to third world countries, physically been there, physically seen with my own eyes how much more, uh, I guess I should say the blessing, the card, the card that I was dealt has been extremely amazing. And because of that, I demand more out of myself because I'm lucky, I'm blessed, whereas others weren't so fortunate, especially children. So, America has this big entitlement factor, and I do my best to try to keep away from the entitlement factor and try to be as grateful as possible. So the motivation for me really comes from being grateful. And it also comes from understanding how truly blessed I am and all the cool things at my fingertips that I have to help me become a better person in fitness and with money and with family. And it's something that can be really, really great once you start acknowledging that.
Helen, I really love your story, by the way. I am wrapping up your book, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. I'm enjoying every little bit of it. So how do you get up? Because that was one thing that you said just a little bit ago. You said, I'll fall down, but I'll get right back up. And so how do you not allow all these negative things, to eat at you?
So when I started learning about the power of the brain and how basically what's in our skull is kind of controlling us besides our hormones, I started realizing that if you could change your brain, and Dr. Amen, I believe his name's Dr. Amen, he talks about this. I know that he does because I followed him back in the day when I first started realizing about how you can change your brain and change your mindset. But going back to the beginning with Atomic Habits, like, our habits are going to dictate what we do every day and the results we get. So I thought, where do I need to start retraining myself? Because especially with money has always been was a very hard thing in my life to handle. I was in debt. I was broke. I had 3 jobs. Like, what? There's something not aligned there. 3 jobs and broke doesn't make sense. So I realized, okay, I've got to start changing my brain. So what I used to do, and I don't do it so much anymore, but what I used to do is I created a playlist of motivational, what are they called? Videos or podcasts, just some guy spitting out motivation. So you guys know what I'm talking about with those, right? The motivational videos. So I created a
Yeah.
whole playlist of those. And every morning, and this is how I used to wake up. I used to wake up depressed. And every morning I'd play it immediately. And the guys would just start talking and spit and fire. So I started training my brain with these guys talking. And it was almost like what I was doing is picking this like coach and putting him in my brain and locking him in there for life. Because when I probably did that for about, I want to say 10 years straight. 10 years straight. I did it. No matter how I felt. I'd go to sleep listening to them. I'd wake up listening to them. And, now I can like when they start talking, I already know what they're going to say because I've listened to it and I've programmed myself. Keyword program. I programmed myself. So, you know what I'm talking about, January?
Girl, I was just gonna say I'm like so like I'm feeling everything that you're saying because we can program ourselves. We can change the way that we think. It's just a matter of us making that decision. And I know we've had so many podcasts where we've talked about this, how you need to intentionally decide for yourself, this is what I want for my life. And then like what Helen was doing, and I've done that too, is play motivational, like the YouTube around in my ear. I have John Maxwell in my ear. I have just words of affirmation just coming to my ear that's like feeding me. I know I talked about the story before about the grandfather, the old Cherokee grandfather and the grandson, and how like there's two wolves that live in us. And which, there's the wolf that's the angry or the evil one, and there's the good wolf. And then the son says, well, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the one that you feed. So whatever that you're feeding yourself is what is going to be the most prevalent in your life. So if you're continuing to tell yourself, I'm broke, I don't know where my next food is going to be, I don't know, da da da, and you're telling yourself this, then that's the energy that you are drawing towards you, right? But if you're telling yourself, money is flowing abundantly, money is going to come, money, I can feel money, it's here, I love money, and you're telling yourself all these positive things, money is going to come. It will. It's just a force of nature, really. It's a force of nature. So whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to be, then go towards that direction. Feed yourself like what Helen was doing for 10 years straight. That's pretty impressive, actually, 10 years straight, pressing that play button. And it's free. It's free. I don't think you pay
Oh
for it, right,
yeah.
Helen?
No,
Free
it's
stuff.
free. It was free. And I mean, I did that for 10 years. I wouldn't say like every single day. There's days where I was like, it's a little too much, but I would say the majority of 10 years, I practiced that and read a lot of books and took some courses. Basically, I was hungry. And if you think about it, like think about a field of sunflowers, right? Every single person is gathered together. We're all there as sunflowers. And there's one side getting fed the nutritious water, the right soil, and then the other side's getting fed poison, right? Which one is going to thrive? The one that's getting all the good stuff, and the one that's getting the poison is going to die. So it's the same with us. We're basically walking and talking flowers. All right. we are feeding ourselves the right soil, we're getting the right water, we're getting the right sunlight, everything we need to do to thrive. And I think that's really important because especially when you have a circle around you, like January said, her husband, he's going to start going on the road you are because he sees how much it's making you happy and you guys are thriving from it. So he's like, I need to do this. Same thing with me. I saw you thriving. I was like, what are you doing? You want to surround yourself with that too. And that's the motivation behind me going, I need to speak up. I need to ask her what's going on, because the motivation for me behind that is to have generational wealth. It's to help others with retirement and life insurance in their life, with savings and with all the good things that come with, the financial industry that people don't know about, that I wished I had known about back in the day. So that's my motivational with that journey.
And I love that majority of the people on our team are women. That makes me so happy seeing that there's so many women. When I first started, it was actually all across men. There was only maybe 3 of us women in that group. And now I see like a sea of women. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I feel that that's amazing because we have a stigma for most of us women. We do have a stigma that women are not very good with math. And I'm going to tell you, I really did not like math. I was not like best friends with math. But I changed my story. And I know you and I talked about this. I changed my story. And that story was, you know what? I can be good at math. I can be amazing at math, Damn it, I'm going to be amazing at math. I'm going to be good at math. And math and I are going to be like this. And so now math is like every single day I look at the finance news. So that is something that fuels me and what I do as a financial strategist, because it's very important to know what's going on and what's trending in the finance industry. So, and anyway, that's what I do. We could talk about that on another podcast. We're talking about finances because I'm a nerd about finances as well. So, but as far as motivation, I love that we talked about setting that mindset and creating that foundation of what motivates us and what's going to boost us for that first couple weeks, first month or whatever. And then after that, we're human. Okay. So we're human and that motivation is going to dwindle. The motivation is going to dwindle. We're going to forget why we're doing it. Okay. So it's kind of like when you go to a grocery store. I know for me, when I go to a grocery store, I'm like, okay, if I don't have it on a list, on a paper, and I'm like, I'm just going to get milk and eggs. And then I come out of there with like a full cart of stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened to my milk and eggs? I have all this stuff, and that's just how the relationship between motivation and discipline is that you can have that motivation, but discipline is going to see us a lot longer than the motivation. So that discipline is going to say, okay, look, I got to make my bed. I got to brush my teeth. I got to do this. So there are certain things when you are in business, when you are at work, have to do, but you have to do that because guess what? You were motivated to that like month ago, 2 weeks ago, you're motivated. It's kind of like New Year's, right? Everyone has these like New Year's goals to lose weight or whatever. But then come like the second week of January, they're like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore, because people get tired, people get lazy. There's other things to do, So it's really like, what's the discipline that you're going to set for yourself to keep on the motivation that you had wanted to begin with? Right?
Yes, it's good to come back to the bigger picture of what you were first trying to get to. And this is why I'm a believer of vision boards and vision books, because sometimes when you lose track of what you're trying to get to, your motivations in these books, or it's on the wall. And I know for me, and I shared this story before, like a couple of years back when I was in a really bad relationship and I was ready to make a huge jump in my life. And I kept thinking, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So you're questioning yourself, what do I do? When you know damn well what you want, what you want. And I think one of the biggest things we tell ourselves that is untrue is, I don't know. You know. It's just hard to do what you know. It's hard sometimes. So I was on the balcony and I brought out my vision book, and I say vision book because I used to travel a lot. So I'd carry a book around with all my vision board stuff in it. And I started just looking through my book, just, oh my gosh. And I started asking myself, do you still want that? Do you still want that? And I could hear myself, yes. And I said, then you know what you want, and you know what you have to do. And you already know what the choice is. And if you don't make this choice for you, you are saying yes to somebody else and no to yourself. And that don't make no sense. Okay. That'll make no sense, because you wonder why you're not happy. You wonder why you're not happy because you are saying more yes to other people than yes to yourself. So I remember I was crying and I said, okay, it's going to be hard, but you're going to just do it. You're just going to do it. Like, feel the fear and do it anyways. And that's what I did. I ended up making that big jump and getting out of that relationship. And it was one of the most scariest things I did, but it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. And it changed me so much because I got to spend 9 months in Oregon in kind of like a resort style place. And I got to write. That's kind of how I started finishing my book towards the end. And I was one of the most happiest times of my life. And I got to feel what it was like to be in peace and around mountains and trees. And I could go more into that, but you can find out more by reading my book, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. But I gotta say, that is that shift right there. That motivation came from, and I'll explain, like, the why behind the motivation came from just looking at my roadmap. I like to call it the vision book was my roadmap. It kept me going in the direction I wanted to go.
I'm going to make a vision book. I love that you have a vision book because it's portable. And just like you know, I like to travel. I like to, you know, go somewhere, but just the fact that I can pick it up and put it in my purse if I wanted to, and just be able to open it up. And I associate that with a shopping list. Okay, I associate the vision book with a shopping list because I realize that when I put something on that list, when I have a list period, I am focused on what I need to get on that list. And usually, like, so I was telling my daughter yesterday, I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing. This is the game plan. We're getting this, and that's it. So I was very determined to get just what was on the list. So I associate that with a vision board or a vision book, because the vision book allows us to focus on the things that we really want. And there is magic. There's that energy, right? When you put something in your vision book, there's that energy. It's like a exchange of, I don't know what it is, but I think she's about to show us her vision book. I'm really excited to see it. So the vision book. So if you don't have a vision book, create that, because a lot of the times, like, it's a good target to have. So I love guns. Okay. So I love guns. I love target, shooting range, not driving range, the shooting range. And I love, like, whether it be a gun or whether it be a bow and arrow, I love target practice. Like, that's probably one of my most favorite things to do, is like, or like have my gun and, you know, target practice. But the reason why I like it is because I'm focused on the goal, and the goal is to, like, bullseye, right? So anyway, the shopping list and the vision board is kind of like that target, you know, of where you want to go. And I encourage everybody that's listening, create that vision book, that vision board, whichever one that suits you, create it and look at it daily. Look at it. There it is. Okay, Helen, talk to us about your vision board.
So this is my second one. My first one was smaller. It was like half the size, but I wanted a bigger one. And this was, I mean, I made this on a PowerPoint, and all I did was just had it printed out over like FedEx. So there's a picture of me. Let me see right there, you know, and it said, see where the dates are. Hold on, right there. So it's like it's 2014 to 2015, but it actually lasted for a couple years. That's the year I thought I was just going to get it. And then they're in themes. So this is the one with me and my son, you know, and then this is like, how bad do you want it? You know, all the things with that, a lot of affirmations. What is this one? Healthy living, you know, and then there's so many. There's the money one, there's the spiritual page, there's the house stuff, you know. I would post pictures that at the time looked like me. How much thicker now. But yoga's in here, hip hop, work, a lot of working out pages, because I was like I said, I've always been into fitness. Then I've got my retreats. This is before I even started doing retreats. And this is, I wanted to feel sexy. At the time I didn't feel sexy. And I ended up starting pole dancing. I loved it. There's a lot of traveling in here, you know, places I wanted to visit, places I wanted to go, places I ended up going. There's, and what I like to say, there's learning. I wanted to learn new languages. There's, all of these cool, different, there's the person I wanted to meet. Oh, there it is. Person I wanted to meet at the time I was single, like I said. There's my book stuff that I wanted to do. At the end was the most important because it was contribution. Because I really believe you're asking for all of these things to come to your life, but things has to come in and things have to go out. That's the flow of it. So I needed a page of contribution and how I was going to contribute. My last page, and I really suggest this if you're doing a vision board or vision book, either one, is make statements of when you were a child and what you said you'd be when you grew up. Because this helps you remind yourself of you when you were a kid, and you owe it to yourself as a child to deliver all the things you said you wanted to do as an adult, because now you're an adult. It's like, I'm going to give you those things. You earn those things. I remember when you were scared. I remember when you were suffering. I remember when you were crying. I love me so much. And now I'm an adult, and now I've got the ability to do these things, and I'm going to do it. So that's kind of it. That's the whole vision book. I mean, there's more pages, but that's the vision book in a nutshell. Super simple.
Helen,
Yeah.
I'm inspired. I am inspired. You inspired me to create my vision book. I have a vision board, and the vision board, at the time when I made it, and I'll show that to you after, but at the time that I made it, I think I was in the mind frame of materialism, and at this point I'm not. I really don't need anything, especially like with and I told you what happened. I just went to my mammogram yesterday. Thank God. It's, there was nothing. But prior to that, there was a whole thought of what if I got breast cancer? How would And I was okay. I was okay if I did have breast cancer. If that was the case, then I would deal with it however way I was going to deal with it, right? But when I found out that I didn't have breast cancer, I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt so alive. I'm so alive. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe, that's the news. I was very, very extremely happy about the news. But in any case, so my whole vision board has changed. It's not how I was 2 years ago, last year. I mean, it's completely different. I think the whole contribution page, that's what drew me, like what you were saying. That's what called out to me, because, and we talked about this right before we got on the show, and we talked about how, like, eventually we're going to die. That's just a matter of life. We are going to not be on this earth. And for me, what's most important to me is the legacy I leave behind. And what is it that I want to do for my loved ones and my future, right? We talk about generational wealth, not just my children, but my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, and the great grandchildren after that. And what will I leave for them? Because I want them to remember me, even though I may not be here.
I love that, January. And I just had this amazing idea. I think that what we should do is the next 2 weeks. So our first podcast in May, I think we should have new vision books to share. What do you think?
I'm always down. And I was actually going to create that vision book this week, because I'm like, I really need a new vision board or book. And I want the book because then I can hold it and go to the beach and it's like, okay, I can look wherever I am.
Yep.
So yes, girl, I'm on it.
Let's do it. And for all our listeners, in the next 2 weeks, we'd love to hear about your vision book journey or vision board, but vision book specifically, we'd like to hear. And if you'd like to jump on this with us and get your vision book made the first week of May, share it, tag us at Sexy Freedom Media or Hell of a Journey or VIP Finance Builders, and we'll share it and tell us you listened to this episode. That'd be amazing.
And if you share it, the first person who shares their vision board, I will gift you $50. So send that board. Okay, send that vision board. So the first person to send it will get that $50. I hope you're listening.
Ooh, let's expand this and share it in our Sexy, Successful, and Soul-Fed Facebook group and get everybody on board. This sounds like a lot of fun. Let's do it. First week of May. So that means we will be talking and sharing our vision boards on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. Awesome.
I'm excited. I'm excited. With that said, thank you again for listening. We're really excited to see your vision boards. Remember to turn it in. What's the hashtag? Are we doing hashtags? Sexy Freedom Media Podcast?
Yeah, you could do SFM podcast.
Okay, so hashtag SFM podcast. So tag us. That's how we'll know that you turn it in. Remember, first person gets that $50. I'll Zelle, Venmo, or Cash App, or whatever, PayPal. I'll do whatever that you have. So that's the first person, $50. Really excited. And so next week, I don't know what our topic is next week. Helen, what are we talking about next week?
I think next week I'd really love to talk about how important life insurance is.
Okay.
You think
Sounds
so?
good. Let's
All
do
right.
that. Sure.
Let's do it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and choosing us. Again, please like, love, and share. January, tell them where they can find you at.
You can find me on Facebook, VIP Finance Builders, or Instagram, VIP Finance Builders. You can also find me on LinkedIn, January Liddell, or you can check out my website, januaryliddell.com. Another website that you can find myself and Helen is Extreme One. That's X and then TREME one, the number one, financial.com. I hope we're going to put this on the notes so you can check that out too. Helen, where do we find you?
All right, you can find me on Hell of a Journey. That's with one L, Sexy Freedom Media on Facebook. Also join our group, Sexy, Successful, and Soul Fed. We'd love to have you in there. It's all about women empowerment. Please share with your friends, like, love, share, give us a review. And thank you so much for listening. Go check out my book, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. You can find Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. You can find it on Audible and Amazon. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Ahia.
Aloha.
Want to hear more?
Visit us at SexyFreedomMedia.com.